Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema every week, sees a couple of things, watches them, rates them out of 5, stays at home, watches things on various streaming platforms, rates them out of 5, and puts them up against each other and sees where money has been better spent this week. My name is Tosin and I am the host. I am based up near Birmingham in a place called Bromsgrove. And joining me on the Isle of Wight as always is Shaun Harris.
Nice, hello.
And joining us from London, straight out of a theatre, is Holly Nestling.
Hello.
Hello, yes, and we do not have Sharon with us today because Sharon is somewhere getting a boot removed. Yeah, and then going to see Dune Part 2, which obviously I think is pretty much going to be taking up most of this episode, Dune Part 2. If you haven't noticed it, if you've been under a rock somewhere, it is in cinemas at the moment. Dune Part 2 is there, and it is... I don't know about you guys, but I'm a bit surprised as to how much of a massive film rollout this has been getting, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do. I'm with you on that. I understand that one.
Yeah, because it's being rolled out as in, oh my God, Dune Part 2, everybody, look, we've got Dune Part 2. And I didn't realize that the first one was that big a hit. I don't think it was, I don't think it crossed $1 billion or anything like that. But they're rolling it out a little bit like it's the new, like, you know when you had Lord of the Rings and the next Lord of the Rings movie would come up. They're rolling it out like it's that, and they're making a big deal. And the same thing that I think I said a couple of weeks ago, that you got with a Marvel movie, when a Marvel movie was released and nobody else released anything in the cinema. They're doing the same thing with Dune, where they're just
they seem to have, don't they? They seem to have.
Yeah, there's nothing else in cinemas besides Dune. Nothing new besides Dune at the moment. And I was just kind of like, I didn't think the first one was that big a deal, but they just seem to have decided, I say they told you, we're going to tell you it's big and therefore it shall be big. How much money did the first one make?
Opening weekend, US and Canada, 41 million. Gross US and Canada was 108 US billion.
Hang on. Wait, 108 billion?
Yeah.
No. It can't be 108 billion.
108
million.
million.
So I was saying 108 billion would be like the biggest film of all
that
time.
Doesn't make sense. 433 million global.
No, but is this Dune Part 2 or Dune Part 1?
That was 1.
So how much did it make global?
433 million US.
Yeah, that's something. That's not even $500,000.
No.
Yeah, it's not even $500,000. But they're giving Dune Part 2. They say that they've decided that Dune Part 2 is a massive film or part of this massive franchise, and I don't. Anyway, that's going into the business of Hollywood and everything like that, and I kind of like. It's confusing me a bit.
But you can never have interesting conversations about things like each of the premieres and the amazing, actually iconic outfits that Zendaya's been wearing. that are actually like, they're genuine like fashion history things. She's wore, I can't remember who the designer was, that was about 15, 20 years old. Outfits. I think they've been proper.
Was Florence, I haven't seen any red carpet stuff. Was Florence there?
Yes.
What's she wearing? I might have to have a look at. I might have to.
They've been wearing. They're quite amazing. I'll send you around some links because they look.
Okay, Holly, I'm not sure if you remember this or anybody who's listening to us for the first time. But Shaun essentially, let me put it this way: Shaun has loved Florence Pugh long before people knew who she was. Shaun has loved. He's loved Florence Pugh for years. Every time she's, it's Florence Pugh, is it? I'll go watch the film. And I think Shaun will give a film an extra star because it has Florence Pugh in it. It's like,
She's wonderful. She's wonderful.
No, she is amazing. She is amazing. I will give her that. I mean, her choices, her performances, everything. Shaun and I were talking just before you came online, Holly, about how it's, we've gone to that age now where we find it hard to say stuff about what we think about Florence Pugh without feeling a little bit problematic. So, without feeling a little bit problematic. But, yeah, we like Florence Pugh. Let's put it that way.
I can say things without being problematic.
You can say things without being problematic, and we will just agree with you.
Yes.
So if you wanted to say it, so talk about about what she looks like, how she carries herself, we would just say yes.
You say it is correct.
We would just say yes. All right, cool. So Yeah, but the outfits that she's been wearing, I know Zendaya, the one that I saw that I think got the most headlines was the C-3PO outfits that she wore, where Shaun, she seriously dressed up like a robot, and like you remember Metropolis, Fritz Lang's
Which
Metropolis.
slang, yeah.
The robot outfit that Maria wears in that.
Yeah.
That's what Zendaya wore to the world premiere. Pretty much that outfit she wore it to the world premiere, and everyone's just kind of like, "What the hell is this?"
And it was from, and I can't remember which designer it is, but that is one of the ones that's about 20 years old and was this absolutely iconic catwalk.
It's apparently is a designer who apparently exclusively works with Zendaya now. Which is why this essentially the whole sort of like publicity tour has been their own special kind of catwalk thing. But anyway, back to the whole thing. There seems to be this thing where it is the cinematic community has decided that we're going to tell everybody that Dune is a big movie, and because we're telling everybody Dune is a big movie, Dune will be a big movie. So because let's kick off talking about Dune. Let's talk about Dune Part 2 properly. And now, and I feel I maybe I should let you guys go first, because the thing is, like, I'm going to be one of those annoying people that's kind of going like, well, actually, I think you'll find if you look at the book, because I did read the book, or I did listen to the audiobook, all 26 hours of it, before watching the first film. And for me, I cannot talk about the film without talking about the source material. Because for me, a lot about the experience of watching the film is how they have treated the source material and what they've done to it. And it's almost really impossible for me to just deal with this thing as a film on its own.
Right. Now, you see, I first read the book 25 years ago or so, and absolutely love the book.
Yeah.
So I've read all of the original ones, and I've read the 3 written by Frank Herbert's son.
Yeah.
So
For me, I haven't read the book, so I'm really sorry.
Okay. So let's start with so I mean, let's just kind of try and give like an overview of what's happening. So Dune Part 1, you have the Atreides, and they live in this world where, like, it's like it's an intergalactic empire with an emperor, Shaddam the Fourth, or this is the third. I can never remember which number it is. And you have the Atreides family who have been given stewardship of this planet called Dune, a desert planet that creates this thing called spice, which is pretty much the oil of this world. Spice is like the most valuable thing, because without it, they cannot travel interplanetary. So they have this world, they have spice, and they're given stewardship of it. But there is a betrayal. The whole family gets wiped out, all apart from the son, Paul, and his mum, Lady Jessica. And while they're on Dune, they go and live with... So when we finished the first film, they got to the point where they had escaped being massacred with the rest of their family, and they were hiding out they had just been accepted into the Fremen, who are the indigenous people the indigenous people of the planet Arrakis. But they have been pushed aside. They have been oppressed. They live out in the desert, in the dune, and they sort of almost live like a sort of nomadic slash guerrilla lifestyle. And where this film starts, you have Paul and Lady Jessica with the Fremen, and then the whole film is really about, are we going to be able to reclaim our place? Are we going to be able, in some cases, are we going to be able to replace our place as the Duke of this area, of this planet? Are we going to be able to get revenge on the people who wiped out our family? That is the basic idea. That's the basic storyline of this. Also, there is this whole thing in there about Paul being possibly the savior of this world, or being almost like this religious figure.
And beyond just Dune of Arrakis,
of the entire sort of like universe that this thing takes in. That Paul is, and it's about what happens with that. Is he going to take it on? Is he not going to take it on? That is the basic idea. That's the basic thing of it. So let's go on. So first of all, let's talk about the first film, because I don't think if anybody tries to watch this film without watching the first film, I'm sorry, you have no hope. There's just you're just going to be sat down there asking people, okay, what's going on? Who is that person? Why that? What's going on here? You cannot watch this film without watching the first film. So Shaun, tell me, and this is something I've always been curious about. As somebody who had never read the book and watched the first film, what did you think?
What, of the first film or of this one?
Of the first film and then this one.
I thought it was pretty average, really. There was I had a couple of issues with it. I didn't think it was a masterpiece in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
Yeah, to me it was quite. I like the idea of the dynasties and the different barons, and some of the action scenes were quite cool. It did
Yep.
annoy me a little. It did annoy me a little bit that all the helicopter-y type things were wings, and I don't know why.
The
It looked funny that thing going.
But yeah, ornithopters. Yeah.
Oreopters, yeah. I didn't particularly. I wasn't particularly. Yeah. So I mean, for me, June was. Yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't like
Okay.
smash mouth masterpiece.
Okay. So, and what did you think of this second one?
Okay, this second one, yeah, had quite similar views, really. I mean, you know me, I don't know. I could be wrong because in the books, but there was one bit that I thought, right, like, I mean, we can say about the worms, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you're talking about Dune,
All
you're
right,
talking about worms.
So we're talking about worms, right? Okay. The thing is, are they really tameable? Because the high priestess, or what do they call her? The Paul's mother now. She's like
Yeah, she's the high priestess. Yeah.
yeah, high priestess. How would they get all that stuff on the worm? I mean, to me, that one where they go, okay, let's go, and it's like a whole entourage and all that. I'm like, well, aren't these worms supposed to be pretty,
Well, yeah. Okay. So
style? I mean, how that just sort of appeared? You know what I mean? It's like the palanquin, or whatever they call it. It's like
all tied down. It's
Yeah,
all
but
I
very
understand that, but how'd they get there in the first place?
yeah,
I mean,
that is to be honest with you, that is a good question and something that I did wonder myself. And they do kind of like sort of they kind of like yeah, and then they go on there.
So,
It's
I mean,
because it's not that big a deal. It's not that big an area of the film.
No, it's not that big a deal.
It's not a
just
big. It's
something
not a
I
big.
thought from the bit where they sort of grab them and that, and they got to like run super fast and all that, and then so perhaps they could be really young and be like
Well,
pets, I suppose. I don't know.
well, no. A sandworm is definitely not a
Well,
pet.
that's what I figured.
A sandworm is definitely not a pet. But so, the thing is, I did think about it, and I did think about a very long, boring, technical way in which they could have gotten everybody else on there. But I'll tell you about it afterwards. I'll tell you about it
Yeah, okay,
afterwards.
cool,
I don't think if anybody is listening to this and is thinking, yeah, I'm thinking like Shaun, how the heck did they get everybody onto the sandworm? I
Yeah.
can tell you what I think, but
Okay, that's good enough. Yeah, I'm sure there was a good reason.
even the solution that I've come up with still has problems. So so generally, you're saying that you thought it was
okay.
all right. It was okay.
I should imagine it would be to see it somewhere like maybe IMAX. It might
Yeah.
have more of an impression because I can see. I mean, I saw it actually in Screen One, which is the biggest screen.
It's the biggest screen on the Isle of Wight. Yes.
But and I had my normal lovely seat, which I managed to get.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe an IMAX, but I didn't find it. I mean, I think like the Lord of the Rings it was similar sort of, I guess, along those lines. But some of the fighting scenes I thought were inconsistent, and when the bit with the smugglers, when the smugglers and old people turn up and all that,
Yeah.
I was
When
like,
Granny Halleck shows up again.
That's sort of,
Well,
that's convenient, shall we say?
Well, you see that, and this is and I'm really at this point in time, I'm really happy that you haven't read the book, because one of the problems I always thought with the first film is I was watching the film and the way it was adapted, I was kind of like, but I maintain that I don't understand how anybody understands the first film without reading the book, because there's a whole bunch of things, character motivations, what actually happens, which are, because the book is big and the book is massive, are just sort of like, shushed over and gone over and everything so I have issues with the first film. I have issues with the first film because I just recently read the book and I've gone, no, but you didn't explain that and you didn't put that in there. And you go, how is anybody following this? Because I can fill in the blanks because I've just read the book, but I don't know how anybody else was in the blanks. And I've had people who said that, who have said, but the thing is, what comes up? So what comes up out of the whole thing is the visuals. The visuals are the thing that you cannot fault Denis Villeneuve and you cannot fault Dune for. The visuals are amazing. I mean, I remember it's kind of like I was talking to some of my friends about it, and I was kind of like watching the first film, going, "Hang on, but no, what about that? No, you haven't explained that because Holly, you're talking about loving the books. I remember having like a proper emotional reaction to bits in the books." Where I was kind of like, oh my god, and I got so invested in these characters.
I mean,
and
Lady Jessica is one of my favourite characters in books.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
I've always, she's just, she's up there. And for me, I love Rebecca Ferguson as well. So Rebecca Ferguson playing Jessica was just like perfect.
Rebecca Ferguson's the High Priestess, yeah?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. No, she's good. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that. I thought she's good in. I think she was in Mission Impossible as well, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And Doctor Sleep, I think she's superb.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, yeah.
But
well,
okay.
She looks right for the books as well. Yeah. She's a really good physical fit, as well as being able to capture all of the things about her. And you see, I found, I mean, do you say it's probably easier having read the books when you first watch it, but when you read the book as well, a lot of the motivations and things don't come out until further along in the book.
Well, so, yeah.
So to some extent, you may not entirely understand exactly what somebody's thinking was at that point in time, because you wouldn't also at that point in the narrative for the book either.
Yeah, but okay, and we will stop talking about part one and go into part two. But as I said, with me, I find it really difficult to separate the book and the film. But
another thing, sorry, just to say, another thing in the part two was the psychopathic Harkonnen, the one
Fade
that, like you got Dave Bautista.
Fade Rather.
The other one comes and he didn't feel menacing at all. I know he was supposed to because he's like, but he just, I thought of him more as a comic character. I thought, why would, surely you could make him more fearsome and more horrible than that if he's supposed to be the sort of character that he is. But to me, he seemed tame, if you like.
Yeah, I see that.
In the first film of it, the character was played by Sting.
In the nappy.
Oh, in the other one, and that was awful. That was absolutely awful. That was. I like Dune. I like the David Lynch Dune. But Sting, in fact, anything I've seen Sting in, Sting cannot act to save his life. Sting is useless. Sting is worse than anyone. Sting is not an actor. I'm sorry.
I would have to agree with you on that. Sting is not an actor.
Sorry, Holly. It looks like I'm really upset. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. It's just
I agree. Sting can't act.
Okay,
in terms of representations of the character.
Right.
There have been some, odd representation. I can't think how they describe his appearance in
the book.
I think the appearance wise, they pretty much nailed it in Dune Part 2.
Right.
Yeah.
That is what Fade Rather, I would imagine he looks like. He's not as big as Raban, the Beast. He's not as big as his brother. He is. Right. He's a lot more. He's a bit more like Paul Atreides in body shape and everything like that. So appearance-wise, I think they pretty much nailed it. So okay, Holly.
I like the fact that
you haven't actually told me about what you saw it in IMAX. What did you think of part 2?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Mm-hmm.
In IMAX, it was extraordinary. It was at the big one in Waterloo. So and I think it's the only place in Europe that's showing it in whatever particular ratio it was. We were in the third row. And in an ideal world, we would have actually been further back. But when we went to tickets about a month in advance, those were pretty much the only seats we could get. And we were it was the first showing. And it was a massive cinema full of geeks. So people clapped at the end.
Well, yeah.
It was that sort of film.
I do sort of half wish that I had seen that sort of one in IMAX, because I should imagine it was an experience.
It was spectacular. It was quite overwhelming.
Was it like, did you have to wear glasses?
No,
right.
But you were sort of, the screen is so big that you were looking from sort of left to right and up and down to fully appreciate everything in front of you. We're actually going to see it again on Saturday because we liked it so much.
All right, now, okay, cool. So anything else you wanted to say?
So it's in terms of the visuals in seeing it in the IMAX, I can't say at this point how it compares to a slightly more regular size screen, but it was it did blow one way. And I have been also there are a few other things that I like both about the book and the film, which is things around the linguistics and a lot of the culture and things is all based on Islam, on Arabic.
Yep, yep.
So I follow with enthusiasm on much social media and various podcasts Marie Leconte, who is a very entertaining commentator and who is French. I'm going to say Tunisian, but I'm not
Okay.
absolutely. And she observed that she was watching Space Arabs, and this was amazing. And then she went, "But I am an Arab on a planet in space. Therefore, am I a space Arab?" She went down a fascinating little rabbit hole, pondering the meaning of her existence as a space Arab. And that has an extra fondness for me, having grown up, at least in part, in the Middle East. So there's an extra enjoyment for the language, for those subtleties to it, which give it additional personal connection.
Yeah, yeah, and I know that this is a thing that has long been a thing with Dune, that Frank Herbert borrowed a lot from Arab culture. The Fremen are pretty much Arabs, and the whole idea,
Yeah.
the whole idea that the planet has been taken over because of this really really precious resource, which is essentially oil. Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's like you have this planet. It's mostly desert. They have this resource that everybody in the world wants because they need it for their travel. It's essentially oil, and their language is very close to Arabic. He's changed a couple of like syllables and everything
There
like that.
there are things that are linked to Arabic, to Aramaic.
Yep.
There's a lot of fun looking at the etymology of it all.
There's a whole bit in the film where they talk about, like, they talk about the North and the South, and how the South, there's a lot of fundamentalists, and there's a bit where, like, Stilgar, Javier Bardem's character comes out, and when they're praying, and I'm like, oh my god, you just
Yeah.
that's just Islam on the screen. But this is the thing. Going back with my usual rants about Black Panther, and how you have Black Panther and it's made for Black Americans, and how there's not that many Africans actually in Black Panther, which is supposed to be set in Africa. It's a problem with Dune in that if you look at the Fremen, they have taken a lot from Arab culture without casting pretty much any Arabs. and it is an issue, and I didn't think about it, and it's for me, it's still something that sort of like sticks in my craw a bit, and I'm just kind of like, okay, that is a problem. I thought that you might have found a way of fixing this. You didn't. So yeah, they have done a whole bunch of that. Now, Holly, have you said anything else before I go off on my own thing?
Um, I'd say I really enjoyed it. I thought it was beautifully done. I thought it captured the book well.
Hmm.
It's They did a reasonable impression of my expectations of characters. I found how they do some things around Jessica's pregnancy quite interesting, and I
Yes.
look forward to seeing that based upon knowing how it all works in the book. That's very interesting as well.
Yes, yes,
And
and you don't want to say anything because it would be a spoiler for anybody who has read the book, or even if you haven't read,
exactly,
yeah, or is planning to watch the film. Yeah, you don't want to say anything about that, about how they do
no,
that. Yeah,
exactly.
I was,
It's just very
yeah.
interesting.
yeah,
I was just going to ask one question. Like the scene, the big arena scene, when there's like the fight and you got all the people
oh yeah,
around.
the black
I mean,
sun,
to me,
and the
uh,
black and white thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
they got like the big massive arena where he says, "Oh, and
Mm.
he fights Slade." Now, I'm assuming that was CGI. I'm assuming that was
no,
CGI.
give me that. You imagine that most of that would have been CGI. Yeah,
Because yeah, but what I mean is, to me, again, that those big scenes were reminding me of. I used to watch a thing about battles, ancient battles, and all that, and it just
yeah, yeah,
reminded
yeah.
me. It really did look to me
It was
like,
like
although it might
Gladiator
have
in
been visually
space.
great, it did notice that it was. It was. Whereas Lord of the Rings, you had proper people, like when they were doing a charge, and that was noticeably CGI for me anyway.
Well, yeah, yeah. I think it was mainly the size of it. When you got to the size of it, you
Probably,
started
yeah.
realizing that, okay, yeah, that. I think in my head, I'm immediately that just looks CGI because there's no way you could have gotten that
No,
number of people in. There's no way
exactly.
you could
Yeah,
have
no,
built something
I
that
agree, I
big.
agree. But it was.
I
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'd also add with that though, I found very interesting how they use color. in it and dealing with and I can't think what the Harkonnen's home planet is
Fa-
called.
oh, Gady Prime.
Yes, the way they use color and that's always all pretty, not quite black and white, but is all
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when
Yeah,
they go
sort of bleach.
indoors, it's different. When they go out underneath the black sun, it has like they've done a lot of physics thinking. I
and
think.
and then in contrast Caladan where it's watery and you've got a
Yeah.
completely different piece of light. And one thing I read today that I thought was a particularly good observation about the first Dune was the scene when the Bene Gesserit have landed on Caladan and they're
Yes.
walking in the rain
Yes.
with the rain blowing at them and the wind blowing their clothes around them.
Yeah.
How the wonderful realism of that actually made it very relatable for something that's not relatable. We all know what it feels like to walk through the rain, to be whipped by wind. And I thought that was really interesting. That was another one from a thought from I have stolen from Marie Leconte, which
Okay.
I just thought was a really interesting insight into how things can be effectively made. You can feel connected with something that you have no connection with based upon really subtle
Yeah.
life similarities.
All
Anyway,
right. Cool. Okay,
go
now
round.
me, my turn. So
Speak.
okay, so my problem with the first one, I think a lot of my problems with the first one is that the first one is pretty much all set up. The first one is an almost 3 hour film, but all it's really doing is setting things up for the second one. It's trying to put things in place and everything like that. And I had issues because I felt like, you were talking about people's motivations and all that kind of stuff, but I was thinking that even for me, the big thing that didn't land in the first one is why the Atreides or how the Atreides get betrayed. Is how they get betrayed, who does the betraying, why does that person do the betraying, and the way it's done in the first one, the Atreides look like the dumbest asses in the universe because it's like if it was that easy to betray you, why didn't you put like, stops in places? How could you be so betrayed so easily? How could you be wiped out so easily? And
Do you know,
these are all yeah,
that's a
these are all
terrific
things
thought,
that
Tosin. That's a
what?
terrific thought. That's a terrific thought. That's made me really, really think.
Yeah,
That's a great observation. Why would they put like what is wrong with the Atreides? They would have probably done a good job.
exactly. I mean, and that's the whole thing. In the book, it is explained a lot more how
Right.
that happened and how they had all these checks and balances and the clever way in which the Harkonnens get around that, which is not even mentioned in the. So,
Right.
so my problem with the first one was just like I felt like they just kept turning over 2 pages at once because there was so much story, and that's why I keep saying that this I would have much have preferred Dune to have been a TV series where you had time to explain all these different things. I still maintain that one of the greatest episodes of TV that we have lost because Dune was made into a film and not a TV series was Who is the Traitor? Because that whole section of trying to figure out who the traitor is or whether there is actually a traitor would have been an amazing episode of TV. But at the same time, like I'll read you something I wrote like last year when one of my friends had just watched Dune for the first time. I'm saying like like I was watching the film and I was going all book snob and going, but you left that bit out. But without that bit, this bit makes no sense. Hang on, you've neglected to communicate just how damn dangerous it is to go outside on Arrakis. He's walking miles away from the house among the palm trees. He has no still suits on, and he isn't even sweating. However, that is a beautiful shot. And that is pretty much what was going through my head in the whole thing because the strongest bit I think of the Dune films is the visuals. They and I will say I saw but having said that, because all the setup has been done, and that's where I think they had to cut a lot of corners to get the setup up and running. I had a much better time with Dune Part 2 because Dune Part 2 I think is a lot more faithful to the book and actually what happens in the second half of the book. It's like they don't cut that much. They change a couple of things, but even the changes they make, I think, are very good changes. I think because I think they make two big changes from what I can remember, and they have to do with kids. And I think that they are good because I remember reading the book, and there was a bit that had to do with a kid where I was reading, and going, "How the hell are they going to do that?" I'm interested to see how they're going to do this in the second one, and the way they address it, I think, is actually quite good because But I mean, and having seen this film, I didn't see this film on an IMAX. I saw this film on I think it was a bog standard cinema screen. It was even smaller than screen one on the Isle of Wight, Shaun.
Wow.
And there were scenes in it, like, or at the beginning, there's one scene where they are attacking a spice refinery, where Paul Atreides and Chani, played by Zendaya, are attacking a Paul, and there's one particular where they're running along and something falls out of the sky beside them as they're running, and I was just like, damn, that's a good shot.
Yeah,
There was a bit.
I know the bit you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
visually, it was.
I just remember looking at it going, damn, that is a good shot. And then, and you knew you were talking about the ornithopters, but for someone who's read the book, because that's exactly how they are described in the book. And there's the bit where I'll call it an apocalypse now shot, where they have all these ornithopters flying in formation, and then there's the sun, and then the camera pans around them. And I was just looking at it going, damn, I was looking at the shots just going, no, okay, visually, this is stunning. Visually, this is stunning. This is great and everything like that. But generally speaking, I had a much better time with this than the first, because I think I had gotten over my whole bits of, you're leaving out my best parts of the book. How dare you, Denis Villeneuve? How dare you? And I gotten over that and this bit, but I think this is a lot truer to the book. The way they end it, it is a very, very confident ending, which it's a very confident ending, which isn't exactly the way the book ends, but you can see. Carry on, Holly.
But it's not the end of the book either.
I think the film ends. The film ends roughly. I think the film ends. I think shortly after the book ends, if that makes sense.
Because part 3 is already lined up.
Yeah, I know part 3 is already lined up, and that's why I think it's a very confident ending, and that's why there's something about this that I do not understand, because we've been living in a world where, so Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning, that made more money than Dune Part 1, I think. So Dune Part 1 was 400 and something million. I'm pretty sure that Dead Reckoning made over half a million, and people are still talking about Dead Reckoning about being a failure. And so much so that they were wondering whether they're going to make the second part of Dead Reckoning and make another Mission Impossible film. However, with Dune, the first one made less than half a million, but they seem happy. And this, bear in mind, this is made by Warner Brothers, and this is a studio that has been canceling films left, right, and center, that has finished filming a film and refuses to release it because they prefer to take the money from a tax cut. So if you look up Acme versus Coyote, or Coyote versus Acme, and you'll see what the kind of rubbish Warner Brothers is getting up to. However, they are happy to pretty much say we are going to make 3 films. They're happy to say we're going to make 3 films when the first one only made half. I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand what kind of hold Denis Villeneuve has on the heads of Warner Brothers, or what videotape he has of them doing some nefarious thing, which means he can do whatever the hell he wants. But it looks as if they are going to make a third one. They're going to make Dune Messiah.
It's one of the best-selling sci-fi novels of all time. So when it's done beautifully, you can see just it has enough of a
Yes, but Holly, we're talking about Hollywood. Half a million. We're talking about Hollywood. If possibly, a big film doesn't make over really $1 billion now, they start firing people left, right, and center.
Maybe they just really, really love Frank Herbert.
That would be the only thing that there's a guy called David Zaslav who's in charge of Warner Brothers at the moment, and that would be the only thing that I think I've ever seen that he loves, because that guy just sort of cuts things. He cuts things, throws things out, messes up careers. He doesn't seem to care. But anyway, let us get back to, we've been banging on about Dune Part 2 for quite a while, with quite effectively not saying that much about the film.
Yeah.
without giving, it's all about vibes, and I think that's the thing. I think Dune Part, I heard somebody say on the radio earlier this week that the first film was more about vibes. It was more about vibes than it was about plot. And it was just kind of like, oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's great. Oh, that makes me feel like this. What's the plot? Don't really know. And I feel like with this second one, I mean, they carry that on. I think the second film makes more sense. I think if you've gotten to the end of the first film and you think this makes sense, I'm with this, I think you'll like the second film, because I think the second film It makes more sense. It's more of a war movie. It's more about things moving towards this war. Who wants it? Who doesn't want it? What the different political factions are going on about? How this guy is being controlled, or is he being controlled? And how some people want him to be like this sort of messiah figure, and he doesn't want to be this messiah figure, but he's thinking that I might have to become this messiah figure to prevent bad things happening. And I feel like all that stuff is actually interesting. I think it's quite well done. I think it's a very good adaptation of the second half of the book. And I think they did a very good job. For me, I would give part 2 a 4 out of 5. Where I would have given part 1 or 3.
Yeah. For me, yeah. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it and that, and I did have some issues with it. Visually, it was very, very stunning. And you're exactly right. You've picked up on that. I've no idea at all why they decided to get rid of the Atreides, why they wanted to get rid of the Atreides.
Yeah,
and I didn't pick that from the first one, and I didn't really pick it up from this one. So perhaps you'll enlighten me sometime. But I've got no idea. I thought you put them on there. It's brilliant. Anyway, that's immaterial. This film, you're right. Generally a 3-star, but because of Florence Pugh, no. It gets a 4. I like this and stuff. But yeah, so
Shaun, you might say you're joking, but we know the truth.
I think it's worthy of a 4-star. I think it's worthy.
We know your love for Florence is pure. All right, 5 from Holly. I could never have seen that coming.
Not give it a 5. It's amazing.
You've had a really good year this year, Holly. You've had a super year.
I know.
Seen, like so many 5 films. It's brilliant.
And 12 films in the cinema so far. And Dune again on Saturday. And then, is it Origins?
Origin.
Yeah. And say Origin on Saturday.
I'm looking forward to. I saw a trailer. I'm looking forward to it. Civil War.
Oh, Civil War. Civil War looks
forward
good.
To that. I saw it was one of the trailers that was on.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah. Civil War looks good. I mean, I think that's like Alex Garland. He's really good at just coming up with this concept that immediately grabs you. And the trailer for Civil War is just kind of like, oh my God, if this film delivers on half the promise of this trailer, it's going to be excellent.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, I'm glad this is what I love. I mean, from that trailer, I got really, really excited. I was like, whoa.
It looks
okay, cool. And I think it might be wise to subject everybody who's listening to this to just one thing that we've seen at home. Because we've gone on about Dune Part 2 for a while, and we could go on for a lot longer. I could go on for a lot longer about Dune Part 2
too.
Because things that they have done. The surprise cameo, which they somehow kept quiet about somebody who's in the film that nobody had a clue about before watching the film. Okay, Holly, apparently you saw the film and you still don't know the surprise cameo I'm talking about.
I'm having a brain freeze. You're going to have to WhatsApp me because I
would tell you about it afterwards, because essentially it was kind of like I was watching it, and when they showed up, I was like, oh, I didn't realize they were in this. I'll tell you what the level it was like. Do you remember watching Interstellar, the Christopher Nolan movie Interstellar? And there's a scene in it where they go to one of those planets that they've been trying to look, and there's somebody that's been on that planet for ages, and they open up this bag where this planet has put themselves into this astronaut has put themselves into stasis, and it comes on, and you're like, huh, that's a pretty big movie star. It makes you actually go back to the poster of Interstellar and go, they definitely are not on this. How the heck did they keep that quiet? And for me, it was a little bit like that with Dune Part 2, where this person shows up and I'm like, how the hell did they keep that quiet in this film? But anyway, let's go over to a film that I know both of you have seen and I haven't. And this is another one of your Holly seeing things in Oscar season movies. It was a film that took us ages to watch because we all managed to miss it in cinemas. But I think you both saw it at home. Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you both saw Killers of the Flower Moon. So I'm going to shut up for a while and, I don't know, probably go look at the bits of Dune, the book, that I think, well, we better have that bit in.
I'll let you start, Shaun, and I will just shout over you as I see.
Okay. Well, you know me, I just go with my gut reactions without stories and stuff like that. Yeah.
Shall I set up what this is about?
Yeah, if you want to, because I mean.
Okay, I'll set up what this is about, and you guys can correct me as I. So, Killers of the Flower Moon is set, I think, after the First World War, or in between World Wars.
Yeah, it's in between World Wars.
It's in between World Wars, and it is set in it's set in the Osage country, and Osage country are a bit of people of Native Americans. They're like the Osage country, and they found oil on their land, and because of the size of them and the amount of the value of oil at that time, it made them per head the richest people in the world. Because they all of a sudden they had all this oil, it was on their land. If anybody wanted the oil, they had to come deal with the Osage people, and this film is about the real life incident that happened, where people started killing off the Osage people so they could get to the oil. Because if they kill them, if there's no Osage people, then you can go claim the oil. And you have Robert De Niro, who plays one of these sort of like, I think pretty much like almost like a land baron, and his nephew is played by Leonardo DiCaprio, someone who's come back from the war, and he sort of like starts a relationship or gets attracted to one of the people who is in the Osage Nation. And Robert De Niro's character immediately looks at it and goes, I could use this, and uses that as a way to get into the Osage Nation. And it's when they say Killers of the Flower Moon, is about the Osage people getting killed off for their oil. That is what I understand the story to be.
That's the sort of rough premise of it. Yeah, there's more of a sort of love story, because like you say, he's sort of Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, plays a great part, because he sort of his uncle's manipulating him, whereas actually he although he does, because his uncle's very, very influential.
Yeah,
he does actually, or I don't know if Ollie felt the same way. He does actually really, really love his wife, and vice versa, and she's really, really forgiving and everything. And I thought that was such a good. I mean, DiCaprio showed the hurt of some of the things he was doing. He actually, and I think there was one scene in particular, drag him in, and he was terrific in this. He was like, you could really feel, was like, although he was doing this stuff, he didn't really, deep down, he didn't really want to do it, but he was pressurized into it. He was, and I thought it was terrific. I thought the acting was terrific. I thought the story was terrific, and I really, really did like a lot of things about this. And DiCaprio, I thought, but then I he's like one of my favorite contemporary actors.
He's like Florence Pugh.
Yeah, he's like Florence Pugh.
He can annoy me a bit, but
I can see why. Yeah,
I've never quite got over the high point of Titanic being him drowning.
Yeah. Well, the Titanic, we write that off. For me personally.
But seriously, it was the bit that made the film for me. Ed Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes.
Hope I haven't spoiled that for anybody. I have after 5 years. And some. Yeah, I thought he was really good. And I never think he's a bad actor. I always think he's a good actor, but I find him not terribly likable as a human being. So sometimes the fact I don't particularly like him as a human being outweigh my
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that with a feminist bent, it's hard to like Leonardo DiCaprio.
I think it's unhealthy to only date people under the age of 25 when you're in your 50s.
I don't know. I never sort of see the
Shaun, stuff. Shaun, going back to us talking about Florence Pugh, we're back on that again.
Yeah. He breaks up with women when they turn 25. It's really weird. Very weird.
He does have a particular, his track record does not make good reading.
Very young women.
Yeah, but so going back to that.
That means that I can find him uncomfortable viewing, because I have a sort of a bit of a, person. Right, okay. I thought he acted really well, and he really captured, as you say, the sort of the
angst,
angst and the multi dimensions of the character. He was the
tour de force.
Yeah, it really did, and my mind was going blank though as to the woman who played his wife,
Lily Gladstone,
thank you, who was spectacular.
Yes, agree with
you. I think they say she's the front runner for the Oscar. So that's a question I'll ask you, because the two people who are likely going to win the Oscar, and it's kind of like thanks to everybody else for showing up, but no chance for you, is between her for Killers of the Flower Moon, between Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. Personally, what do you think, Lily Gladstone or Emma Stone?
Lily Gladstone.
I'm torn, because I thought they were both brilliant, but very different. Probably leaning Lily Gladstone,
All right.
but
Okay. Cool.
I would
Cool.
be very happy with either.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, oh, because
And
because
Be
also,
be quite interesting to give a couple of Oscar predictions if we can. Are we allowed? A bit later.
oh, okay. I'll tell you what, Sean. We'll give some Oscar predictions after this, but let's finish
Yeah,
talking about Killers of
sure,
the Flower
sure.
Moon first, and then we'll do some of that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So Holly, continue. Killers of the Flower Moon. Anything else?
so I thought it was a beautifully shot film. It was very well acted. As one would expect for Scorsese, it was a bit long, but
Yeah.
you don't go into a Scorsese film expecting it to be anything other than,
But
Yeah,
needing a
nominally
little
long.
bit more trimming than it gets. It could have been a little bit shorter, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it is superb. I'm glad I watched it sitting on the sofa rather than in the cinema, because I think I'd have got ants in my pants in the cinema. Um,
So it's actually longer than Dune Part Two, isn't it?
and it feels
It
long.
feels longer than, yeah, because I think it's Dune Part Two. I know it's almost about 2 hours 40 minutes, and
Yeah.
I was quite pleased with it didn't feel as long as that to me.
yeah,
Not even
Yeah,
vaguely. Now, I was glad to get to the end of Killers of the Flower Moon. Not that I didn't think it was superb, but I find
yeah.
Scorsese always drags a bit for me.
Totally with you on that one. Totally
And
with you on that one, Holly.
it's like the my I say literary
The Irishman.
is that
The Irishman was way too long. It was that was way too long.
well, I have this bugbear about J.K. Rowling. Hear me out. Who in the early Harry Potter books they were really well edited.
Yeah,
So
had
they,
an editor, and then
yes,
it got
that's
popular
popular.
and
Not
successful.
the editing. Yeah. And so they become too long. And I think the same has happened with Scorsese. They stopped basically saying, enough now, put it down, you're being self-indulgent.
And I think the same has happened with Quentin Tarantino. I know Sean
No,
disagrees with me.
I
No, I
agree.
must. No. I tell you what. I will concede the point that some of them, probably for me, Inglorious Bastards always seems a bit long for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it just seems that it could, that tends to drag on a bit.
yeah. It's like you could have trimmed half an hour of that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And it's that point of like fame, people stop saying, now, just because you're good doesn't mean you can't, do some things a bit
mm,
better
Well, yeah,
or
but the thing
shorter.
is, but I think, okay, the last couple of weeks, I've been listening back to some of our shows, and we end up talking a lot about the business behind the way these films are made. And so, Killers of the Flower Moon, you both would have seen it on Apple TV Plus.
hmm
That's
Yeah.
because Apple TV Plus paid for this film to be made. Same thing with The Irishman, that Scorsese's last butt number, which was it was made by Netflix paid for it to be made. And so Killers of the Flower Moon, they gave it an extended run in cinemas, but pretty much it's an Apple. And for Apple, the thing is, we are making a Martin Scorsese movie, and we are letting him do what he wants. That is the story they want to tell
yeah,
people.
yeah.
That's what people are going to go pay for Apple TV Plus, because we want to see the Martin Scorsese movie and see what he what happens when he's allowed to do what he wants. So that is what I think leads to these long run times and these indulgent films,
Indulgence,
because
self-indulgence. Yeah.
because people
They are being
are
indulged.
because they've gone to the point where people want to see them be indulgent. People are paying to see what happens when you let Martin Scorsese have all the time freedom and say, "Yeah, we have no problem with that." Okay, so
And the answer is, it goes on for too long.
Yes.
yeah, that's inevitably the answer. Is inevitably the answer. So, how many stars would you give Killers of the Flower Moon?
For me, probably a high three.
I'm going five.
Pardon?
I'm sorry, Sean. You didn't see that. Holly just held up. Holly just held up a splayed hand.
Oh, right. Okay.
So,
Well, okay.
so
Yeah.
Sean, you would say a high three.
But for me, it was a strong three. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought DiCaprio, he deserves it. For me, he deserved the Oscar out of, for
To be fair,
yeah,
I would actually say for me it's a high four, but
yeah.
I'm always a bit more enthusiastic.
Generous. Yeah, that's
I
right.
know,
Yeah, no, I
I
mean,
know, Holly, but if you keep going five, there's nowhere else to go.
This
You are
is
going
true.
to
Yeah,
you're going to
no,
find a
no,
film that is better than Killers of the Flower Moon, that doesn't have its long
there
time
are.
running, that doesn't drag. And yeah,
But I've already done it with Dune today, Dune 2 today. No, yeah, I think it's a very strong four. It's a if it hadn't dragged,
Okay.
Yeah. For me, it's the length. The length. I mean, I thought it was a good film. I thought it was good performances. I liked the story. I maybe didn't. De Niro wasn't quite on song, but for me, it was it was watchable. It was really good, but it did seem a little bit too long. The same similar thing with The Irishman. I think he needs to trim him a little bit. So yeah, for me, it's a high three. For me, it's a high three.
I fell asleep watching The Irishman twice.
I watched it. I think I watched The Irishman over 3 days. So, which I think is the way it should have been done. Make a TV series.
It's better than my watching of JFK going back 30 years, 28 years, where it took me at least 3 watches because I kept falling asleep pretty much at the same point. I just couldn't do it. I still can't.
That sounds like me trying to read Lord of the Rings for the first time. I got stuck on the Council of Elrond for a year. I eventually just came back, skipped like 10 pages, and then finished the book. So, okay. But it's good because it's good to hear. It's good to hear about the what you guys said, because the problem I have a problem with something like Killers of the Flower Moon is because it's based on history. It's based on a historical thing. And my problem is, I'm like, I know this is not going to end well for the Osage people. It's not going to end well for the Osage people because I can see what America looks like now, and there's not that many Osage people running around. So I find it difficult to watch films like that, like films that when they have like a historical film or they're like, yeah, we're going to show you the uprising of this. I'm like, yeah, but we know they had an uprising, but we still know the Europeans quelled it and then nearly wiped them out. So I find it hard to watch the sort of films because I'm like, I don't know what we're doing here. And I feel like talking about Tarantino with me, and half the time I had this thing going in my head. I was like, well, why don't you get up and start making your own films then? And I'm thinking, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe I should try doing that. But I feel like the kind of films that I would be up for, I would take a leaf out of Shaun's boys, Quentin's book, Quentin Tarantino, and I would make all these films, and I would not make historical films. I would make films in the way I wish history had happened. Yeah. and that's what I would say. Quentin Tarantino can do it. I can do it too. I am going to make a film, and it's going to be an African epic, war epic, where the Africans win. I don't care what happened in history. I'm going to show you a vision of a world in which it could have been different. But yeah, that's one of my, apart from the fact that it's 4 hours long, is one of my big things is like, this might be a great film. This might be a beautiful film. This might be Martin Scorsese fighting with his demons of being an American person who lives in a country that was stolen from other people. This might be all of those good things, but it's still not going to end well for the Osage people. Yeah. and so I find it difficult to press play on that to begin with because I'm just.
And you know it'll be 25% too long.
Well, yeah, that as well. That as well. But the big thing is I know it's not going to end well. All right, cool. So quickly, who do you think has won this week? Netflix or cinema?
I think Dune's probably won this week because we were all consistent with pretty much a 5 and 2 4s. Yes. And my 3 probably knocks down Killers.
Your 3 and Holly eventually conceding that it's a high 4 and not a 5.
Mm. It is. It's really good, but it's not. Yeah, it's not as good as Dune 2.
Yeah,
there you go. That's better. Then that's better.
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, I mean, Dune Part 2, images. Yeah, I mean, Denis Villeneuve. When it comes to it's a visual feast. It is good. It is. I think it's more streamlined than the book, which I think is not a bad thing. The timeline is shortened, which I think is not a bad. Essentially, all the decisions that they made, I thought were good. But I will say one thing though, Shaun. I agree with you. I agree with you about the fights because I think a lot of the fights were anticlimactic.
Yeah.
There's one particular one that involves Dave Bautista and Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
Drax and Thanos.
Drax and Thanos. Yeah, facing off.
Drax and Thanos facing.
I wonder if that was contrived. I wonder if that was. That's a brilliant thing. Do you know? I never told you pick up on all these things, man.
I haven't thought that.
Yeah, of course.
The thing is, to be honest with you, I can't take it because I listened to the Empire movie podcast, and I actually went to see them live in Birmingham last week, and they are MCU fans, a bit like me, and so they've been doing this thing for a while, where it's about seeing there's so many people in the MCU that you keep seeing different people from the MCU in different films. Like I remember watching a film and it was the opening sequence, and I was sat down there going, "Oh yeah, that's the Black Widow having a chat with the Hulk," and it had nothing to do with the MCU whatsoever. But all I was just looking at was like, "Hang on a second, these are all superheroes," and it's kind of like that with Dune. Obviously, you have Drax and you have Thanos, and because you can say like this is a film in which Willy Wonka hangs out with Mary J. Watson.
Yes, and Rose the Hat from Stephen King.
Rose the Hat from Stephen King has a word with King Triton from The Little Mermaid. And it's kind of like, you can essentially just, because there's still so much stuff around. But anyway, that particular fight scene, I was kind of like, what? That's it?
That's it, yeah.
It was a little anticlimactic.
Yeah, and the fact is that fight scene and that rivalry isn't in the book. So if you're going to go to the point to make it thing in the film, I'm like, why the heck would you give me that as It was almost kind of like it felt like a bit of admin. Right. Yeah. It felt like it was like, oh yeah, that guy. What are we gonna do? Oh, yeah, do that. Okay, cool, good. Now move on. It felt like anyway. But now let's talk about Shaun. You wanted to talk about who you think is going to win the Oscars. I keep forgetting. Are the Oscars this weekend or next weekend?
Next weekend. No, this weekend. Sunday night. Sunday night.
The Oscars are this week. Okay, so let's try and see what's going to happen. So I have up here the list of 10 pictures, or shall I say 5 films that actually have a chance, and 5 other films that are just like, thanks for playing. I feel like if you're not nominated for a directing Oscar, you are just there to make up the numbers. As far as I'm concerned, that's what I think. So, Best Picture, we have American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, which I don't think any of us have seen yet.
I am going to be watching it either on Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon.
All right, cool. Then you can let us know, because I've been hearing things about that. There's
Barbie.
I
will WhatsApp you.
Okay. Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, which is now on Netflix. Finally, I can watch that. Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. So, Shaun, who do you reckon is going to win Best Picture out of all of those?
Right, from a personal one, from what I would like to win, or from
Let's go with what you would like to win, and then we can go to what is actually going to
win Best Picture.
Zone of Interest. And then what is... Okay, how about you? How about you, Holly? What would you like to win Best Picture?
Two-way split for me, either American Fiction or The Holdovers. Okay. And I'm not going to get my way. I know I won't get my way. But...
Okay, cool. Now let's see. How many of these films have I actually seen? Okay, I've seen Barbie, I've seen Oppenheimer, I've seen Maestro.
I must admit,
Poor Things.
I did really enjoy Past Lives. I did really. That would be my second one.
I've still not seen.
I've heard so many good things about it that I'm almost a bit scared to press play.
because it is exactly what would happen in every situation, and to me it's like for situations that happen and things, it's perfect.
All right, cool. I'm gonna have to watch that, but I'm gonna have to watch that before next week, and we can talk about that then. So I have seen only 4 of the 10 films but then again, let me look at it. The only films the ones that have been nominated for directing are Anatomy of a Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest. So I think that those are the only ones that have a chance of winning Best Picture. But I think it's going to be Oppenheimer.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think probably it will be.
I think it's going to be
probably
Oppenheimer.
What it will. Mm.
Yeah, because it's America and stupid things happen. But anyway, let's see. Directing, we have Justin Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, and Martin Scorsese for Killers of the Flower Moon, Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, and Jonathan Glazer for Zone of Interest. Holly, which one would you like to win, and which one do you think is going to win?
Oh, yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm not entirely sure whom I would like to win, which is not a helpful answer. I'm just sort of staring at the list and thinking, I haven't seen it yet, but I'd quite like it to be Justin Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, just because it would be nice to see something
out of the ordinary.
I reckon it will either go Scorsese or Nolan.
All right, Shaun?
Yeah, I reckon it will go to Nolan, but the one I'd like to win is the director of Zone of Interest.
Jonathan Glazer.
Yeah, Jonathan Glazer. Cool. Yeah, because I like that.
And let's see, out of those, I have seen two. I have seen two of those films, and I think Nola's gonna win, but it's because he's been winning everything. Now, actor in a leading world role: Bradley Cooper, Maestro; Coleman Domingo, Rustin; Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers; Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer; Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction.
I'd like it to be Jeffrey Wright or Paul Giamatti. It's going to be Cillian Murphy.
I think Cillian Murphy will get it. Yeah, I mean, I would. Yeah, the chap in American Fiction.
Yeah, Bradley. No, no. What am I talking about? Jeffrey Wright. Yeah, Jeffrey Wright
Wright,
would it would be okay. Cool, good stuff. Actress in a leading role. Annette Bening. No, I agree with you. I think it'll be Cillian Murphy because after a while, I mean, all these Oscar things, they just you see all the you see all the different things, and it's the same people voting for everything. Cillian Murphy's been winning everything. So, actress in a leading role: Annette Bening in Naiad, Lily Gladstone, Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, or Emma Stone for Poor Things. Who do we think will win? No, who do you want to win? Who do you think will win? Actually, you've already said this, haven't you? Holly.
Well, I think it will either be Lily Gladstone or Emma Stone will get it.
I'll
I
go
still
Lily.
watch Naiad.
Yeah,
I
I would
kind
like
of
Lily
think
Gladstone, and I think she's going to win.
All right.
and in part I extra like that because I saw Emma Stone reacting to Lily Gladstone's win in something else, and she absolutely lost her expletive with excitement about Lily Gladstone winning. So I feel like Emma Stone will be also really happy if Lily Gladstone wins, and that would be nice.
Well, the thing is, like, I feel that, okay, Emma Stone is either one of two things. Emma Stone is either a very, very nice person, or she is a very, very shrewd political operator who knows how to act as a very nice person.
Or both. I think
Yeah.
both.
Yeah, because I think Emma Stone rarely puts her foot wrong in like in public. I think it's okay, cool. Actor in
And
supporting
she's
role.
friends with Taylor Swift. I mean,
Another person who is either a very nice person or a very shrewd political operator who knows how to act like a very nice person. All
Or
right,
both.
cool. So, or both, yeah. Actor in a supporting role: Sterling K. Brown, American Fiction; Robert De Niro, Killers of the Flower Moon; Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer; Ryan Gosling for Barbie; Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. Who do you want to win, Sean? Who do you think will win?
Well, I really liked American Fiction. What part does he play, Toes? That
He is the brother who is exploring sexuality.
Yeah, is it what's his name in the film?
Sterling K. Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, yeah. I thought, to me, with American Fiction, it's the whole story of the fact, and I really liked it of being like the family that was there with all the foibles, all the problems, and all that. And he was great. And there's a beach scene, which I think There's a scene on the beach, which I think he's.
Yeah, no, I know. You spoke about that when you saw the film, and it still makes me want to go track that down, because that was me in the point where I couldn't leave the house to go to the cinema.
Yeah.
see it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
I'd also like Sterling K. Brown to win, though I also thought they were all great. I thought Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. were also superb. I reckon it will
Mark
go
Ruffalo's brilliant.
I reckon it'll go to Downey.
Okay, I've only seen Downey, Gosling, and Ruffalo, and I think for me, I'd love it if either Ruffalo or Gosling won. Because I think Mark Ruffalo is such a sublime idiot in Poor Things. I would love it.
I know. I do. Yeah.
I would love it if he won.
He turns from being like the biggest like braggart and biggest thing to being this simpering wimp.
He's just useless. He's just absolutely useless. That's the thing. Oh my god. I think
the character who's in love with the idea of the naive woman, and when the naive woman is, or no, who what likes to utilize the naive woman, then realizes he's not needed, can't cope, and becomes
it cannot cope.
incapacitated without by not being important enough.
Cannot cope. He is so useless. He's so useless. I mean, I think I would watch Poor Things again for Mark Ruffalo in the film. I mean, Emma Stone is brilliant, but Mark Ruffalo would bring me back. All right, cool.
I think they all deserve it, but yeah, Sterling K. Brown would just make me really happy.
All right, cool. Actress in a supporting role. We have Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Daniel Brooks for The Color Purple, America Ferrera for Barbie, Jodie Foster for Naiad, and Davine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers.
Ooh, it's a toughie one, that. That's a tough shout, I think, for me.
I've still not seen The Color Purple, so I can't comment on
Yeah, I'm there. So,
Damn, that faulty projector.
yeah, that would have been a good one. Okay, so yeah, I suppose. Don't know. Can you tell them again, Toe? Sorry, mate.
Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Daniel Brooks for The Color Purple, America Ferrera for Barbie, Jodie Foster for Naiad, and Davine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. I don't think that's how you pronounce it. I heard somebody pronouncing it a different way, but I was like, okay. Divine?
Okay. Well, I'll probably have to go for Emily because that's the one that I can really remember, I guess.
Okay.
It's a tough shout, though, isn't it, that one?
Yeah. Because from what I've seen, this is the category that makes me want to watch The Holdovers, because Divine Joy Randolph has been winning everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Everywhere you've gone, people have just been throwing the award at this woman, and it's making me go, what the heck does she do in this film? It's like I feel like
perfect. But she just somehow manages to capture this complicated warmth and sadness and cynicism and kindness, and working through her own pain. And it kind of gives me shivers thinking about
okay.
it, actually.
Yeah, actually, Holly, I could have a change here because now you've made. Yeah.
Because I'm almost slightly damp-eyed thinking about the sort of the character that she, and we know that I am soppy as anything and will become emotional at absolutely nothing. But she really, she managed to capture this. I mean, it's such a simple film.
Yeah.
So quite complex. So, and I know I banged on about it, when we reviewed it, but it's simple, but it's complex. It's a vignette, but it captures so much of just being a human being and how good and bad and wonderful life can be, even when
things
life
are down.
when life isn't great, how where the sunshine can come from and how you just cope with being alive. And I think, maybe I don't know if some of these things as well have a sort of extra ring for me, having having bipolar disorder, that may mean some of these things resonate slightly differently for me. I don't know, but I would therefore really, really like it to be her in many ways. But I would also be really happier for Emily Blunt, because I really like Emily Blunt. So
the problem is, I feel like Emily Blunt has got this nomination for one scene where she has anything to do in Oppenheimer. I feel like
that's what I mean. That's what makes it difficult, because it's not really. I
feel like she's going one scene, and I feel like but we'll see.
I can think of 2 or 3 actually. So I'd go with a few more than just the one scene for her. There are a few bits that sort of.
There's two. There's one in the interrogation room, and there's one in the White House right at the end of the film. Which
there's 2 other bits that are very well put together.
Okay. All right, cool, good stuff. And I think we're going to stop there, because we got. I think that's the big 5, the big 5 or the big 6. 6, the big 6. Picture, director, fine, acting. Yeah. All right, so we're going to stop there with that, and we're just going to say, well, we'll find out this weekend. Who wins the Oscar near you. And until next week, when we will probably have some sort of like Oscar feedback, and I will probably. This is annoying because I feel as if I can already write the script of what I'm going to say next week now. based on what I think is going to happen in the Oscars. So, but yeah, we'll talk about that. But in the meantime, get in touch with us at Netflix versus Cinema on Twitter, Netflix via Cinema on what's that thing called? YouTube. Yeah, the one with the videos on YouTube. On Netflix versus Cinema on Facebook. That is where we are at the moment. Tell us what you think about what it is. Tell us who you think is going to win the Oscars, or by the time you hear this, it might be. Tell us who you think about who won the Oscars. Anyway, until that time, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Thank you very much for joining us.